Welcome to our executive interview series at the Trellix Cybersecurity Summit presented by FedScoop and Cyberscoop. I'm Wyatt Cash and we're here with Ann On, Threat Intelligence Analysis Manager for Trellix. Ann, thank you so much for joining us. And I'd like to get your perspective on some of the latest cybersecurity concerns that you're seeing in your research that U.S. public sector leaders should be aware of.
Sure. We know 2024 is a special year, it's an election super year. We see elections across the world. And in the US, we have a presidential election coming up in November. And what we observed recently is Taiwan just had their presidential election in January. And right before, a day before Taiwan's presidential election, on January 13th, 24 hours before, we see a spike in our telemetry, a spike in detection of malicious activity that happening, and it just happened for 24 hours and dropped on the election day. And it's very puzzling because if you're targeting election, you would target the election on the election day. And why did the activity drop the day before? It's very puzzling. And we go in with a little like an analysis. It looks like the threat actors are trying to figure out damaging information so that the opponent doesn't have time to respond, because that's just happened before the election. And along with that, this is just kind of important piece of intelligence puzzle. A week leading up to the election, we did see a ton of misinformation campaign targeting Taiwan's ruling party, which is not a favorable candidate from China. For China, they're targeting specific that the candidate and the party, and also deep fake generated video posting like damaging information on the president also. So I think there's a lot of lesson learned for the U.S. voters, and we're about to have our elections coming up, and caucuses and primary series. We do see some, as Trellix, we have been putting a lot of focus on this, the research on election security. Obviously, the election infrastructure security is a really big component of this security, but also we're looking at misinformation campaign targeting the candidates, potentially using these to sway election results. So we've been tracking the threats targeting.
Well, we're glad that you're all keeping an eye on it. We know how important that is.
Yeah.
Well, Ann On, thank you so much for taking a few minutes to join us here at the Trellix Cybersecurity Summit.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.